Hey, Shay.
How you doing?
I'm good. Good to see you for a brief moment today.
Yes. Yes, right on my way into the office.
I actually got a chance to work from home today.
Did you?
Yeah, the bank, I work inside the bank, but I work on the investment side, but we had to work. The bank was closed, so I work from
Right.
home today.
Do you get to work from home very often?
Sometimes, just depends.
I get to work from home sometimes, like now. I like it.
I know. I loved it during the pandemic. For 10 months, I worked from home. I loved it.
Finishing off some big shrimp, and
Mm.
then we'll play with a couple of plates. About
Okay.
3 of them. We're gonna do 3 different kind of plates. Cool.
I hope not mine.
Okay, all right, okay. That'll be okay. That'll be okay like that. Yeah. Yes. Okay. 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 Do a little bit of show and tell. Yeah, that'll work just handy. Two's a little bit big. But you hate it when people talk to themselves. I'm one of those people. I talk to my food. Okay, all right. All right. I've been scrambling to get some food kind of done. My beef is well done. So nobody's eating that tonight. That's okay. But for the purpose of just playing with plates and maybe talking a little bit about plate presentation in general. Before I get into that, so the recipes for this week, I believe, called for salmon. We were going to poach salmon and poach shrimp. Well, unfortunately, all of the salmon that we have there was plenty, there was enough. It all got used by mistake in this morning's Food 2 class. So it's going to be almost the same. You're going to poach halibut this week. Method is the same. If you are one of those peoples that is going to rely on the recipe, pull the recipes, you are getting all of the ingredients for this horseradish cream sauce. I just want to warn you that sauce with halibut will be really, really strong, maybe even overpowering. Halibut is a very mild flavored, it's a white fish. So tilapia is kind of in that same group. Grouper, snapper are mild flavored fish, and halibut is one of those. This horseradish cream sauce, it's sour cream, horseradish, capers, a little lemon, garlic. Those are all in and of themselves, and in combination, really, really strong, which accompanies salmon really well, which is also kind of a strong, high omega. Any fish that's high in omega-3 fatty acids, that fat we taste, and that's the fishy taste of fish. An acquired taste for some, lovely taste for some. I don't like the, I don't, Andy, yes, absolutely. A beurre blanc would be perfectly, that would be really nice. In fact, maybe a beurre blanc with some kind of herb in it, a tarragon, almost on the side of a Bernays. Bernays comes from Hollandaise, but a beurre blanc with the white wine and a touch of tarragon. Right now, this time of year, unless you already have it in your yard, in your herb garden, you'd be relying on dry tarragon. And just as a reminder, dry herbs, it's a 3-to-1, a third versus fresh herb. Dry herbs with the water removed, dehydrated, the oils, the flavonoids are much more concentrated. So a little bit of dry herb where you might mince and prepare a lot of fresh herb. Does that make sense? Typically it's about 3-to-1. So 1 part dry herb equals 3 parts of the same fresh herb. But I think with everything else we have for this week, do what you want, do what you like, but just a little touch of tarragon along with your beurre blanc, So wait a minute. Who's in stock soups and sauces? Okay. All right. Have you done beurre blanc yet? Okay. Yes. Then good. Mounting the butter, that's the most difficult part of a butter sauce. Beurre blanc, beurre rouge. Did y'all cover that in stocks as well? I mean, same sauce with a red wine instead of a white wine. So y'all know mounting butter, off the heat, using the residual heat of the pan, constant movement until all of that butter's incorporated. And I like to point out somebody try to explain the physics of as you melt the butter in the pan, moving it around, as you melt the butter in the pan to finish your beurre blanc. If you melt butter, in the microwave, it's watery, very, very, very loose. But when you melt the butter in the pan with a little garlic and a little shallot and a little white wine reduction and, whatever, it gets thicker and thicker. How does that happen? Think about that. Ponder that. We won't, I don't want to jump down a rabbit hole. I'm going to try to put together 3 plates this evening. With that in mind, just the only other thing I wanted to mention about this week's lab, when you do the poach, be very mindful of the water temperature. Okay, let's if we pay attention to this one important thing, boil is rapid movement on the surface of whatever it is you're boiling. If it's cream, if it's milk, if it's stock, if it's water. The general boiling point of water is 212 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, that varies depending on elevation. In Provo, Utah, at an elevation of almost 4,000 feet, the boiling point of water is actually 209.5 degrees. And so that's only important to know, baking, especially if you move someday to a higher elevation, east or west. If you go to the Rocky Mountains in the west or the Appalachians in the east, the higher elevation is going to affect moisture, liquid, but it's going to affect hydration of baked goods and, boiling point, all of that. Generally, below a boil is going to be a simmer. And so some of you have heard me just use as a point of reference, bring your water up to a boil and then turn it down until you just have a few bubbles on the outside, on the rim of your saucepan or your stock pot. When you've got those light little bubbles, you've got steam coming off, but you have light little bubbles on the outside, the rim. You know what I'm talking about? That is simmer. So for me, the quickest way to get to a simmer is to go up to a boil and then lower the temperature until I see exactly what I want. Poach, so that simmering liquid is going to be in the neighborhood of about 185 to 195. Poach is going to be the stage just before that. So in a poach, you would likely see, if you've ever watched water coming to a boil, before you ever see the little bubbles around the rim, you see bubbles. They're not coming up from the bottom up to the surface, but you see it's almost like hundreds of little air bubbles all along the bottom of your saucepan. You know what I'm talking about? You can visualize that. You have a little bit of steam coming off. You can see bubbles forming at the bottom of the pan, but those bubbles aren't necessarily coming all the way up to the surface and breaking at the surface. That should be in the neighborhood of 170, 175 to about 185. That range is going to be good poach. Something delicate, we're going to poach delicate things like salmon, halibut. Shrimp's very firm as a seafood, and shrimp can handle a lot of moving around in the pan. The muscle fibers, just like pork or beef or chicken, the muscle fibers in shrimp kind of tense up really fast. But that doesn't happen with flaked fish, round fish, flat fish. And so you have to be very careful when you're poaching, especially this halibut. It would be the same for tuna. It would be the same for the salmon. That flaky fillet of fish is very, very delicate. And when you have movement in the water like that, you're going to break apart the fish, and you won't have this nice square or rectangle, whatever you got. If you're going to trim it a little bit more for your plate presentation, just, throwing that out there for the peanut gallery. Whatever you do, whatever you have, if there is movement in the water, and I'm talking about the boil or simmer, you've got bubbles going around everywhere. If there is movement in the water or in the poaching liquid, the court bouillon, wasn't that a term, I think, from last week? Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was last semester. Y'all recall last week, wasn't it? Court bouillon. Court bouillon is the fancy French word for this poaching liquid. It's more than just water. And so everything that you add to that water, white wine, fruit juices, fruit slices, garlic in whole or slices or smashed or minced, chopped, whatever, ginger. You're going to do something with the shrimp. I think you got all the ingredients to do exactly the recipe that I gave you, except for San discovered that this morning. I think y'all know this. We can't legally, we can't send you home with alcohol. There's lots of laws involved with that, and even though the state legislature just passed the ability for bars and liquor stores, not liquor stores, a bar can send you alcohol in to go. That doesn't affect the culinary school yet, and so we can't send hooch home with you. And so you are free. You can absolutely court bouillon, and you can absolutely do that kind of ginger orange thing with the shrimp without any alcohol at all, and it's going to be wonderful and marvelous. If you want something divine and heavenly, well, I'd leave that to your interpretation, and I won't say anything more about it. How about that? Y'all have any questions about this week's lab and what's coming up? Anyone?
It said to boil.
Go ahead, Jess.
I'm sorry.
Okay, it said to boil the potatoes and saute the spinach. Is that what you want us to do, or are we free to do something other?
You're free to do whatever you want.
Okay.
Poach the fish and poach the shrimp, and do them in, even if it's your interpretation, do them in the two different, it's the method. Okay, so again, look at those recipes, but pay attention to the directions, the method. We have two different methods. So the shrimp is being done in what we're calling a shallow poach. You don't necessarily completely cover all of the shrimp with the liquid. Okay, that's a shallow poach. The salmon, the halibut is being done in an immersion poach. Immersion, to immerse the product, means it's completely covered with the liquid. Okay, so if you change the flavor profile, if you take different things out, you don't want that orange is maybe sounds too strong to you, whatever. I don't care if you do completely different poaching liquids, so long as you get both a shallow poach, and the intention was to shallow poach the shrimp because it can handle it, and to immersion poach the fish. So in this case, it'll be halibut. The halibut should cook faster than the salmon. So just remember, we've addressed before, in any kind of recipe, it really is just a guide, the time that it says, a recipe says to cook something, because that recipe doesn't know how thick your steak is or how thin your fish is, so on and so forth. If you want to do something different with potatoes, you want to do something different than potatoes. The recipes that I gave you, you have those ingredients. You're free to go rogue and do whatever else you want. That's perfectly fine. Terrence, we cut you off. Speaky, my friends. Or did we answer your question too already?
Hello.
Terrence, hello.
All right. I'm back. My bad. I know some man. Miss Kathy had asked the question I was gonna ask, like far as the cooking method itself, what you want to do with the spinach and all that.
Yeah, do whatever you like with those things. As you've noticed and we've mentioned, I'm trying to give you protein, a sauce, incidentally, if you take the orange sauce, the poaching liquid from the shrimp, and you reduce it, and maybe mount that with a little bit of butter, it's going to be a very unusual beurre blanc. I wouldn't call it beurre blanc at all. I might call it beurre l'orange, orange butter. But I don't know. Give that a try if you'd like. But you'll already have a sauce with the halibut if you do the horseradish sauce, or you do a beurre blanc, or whatever, anything else that suits your fancy. Practice something that you're learning in stock soups and sauces, and see if you have a winner. I don't know. Take pictures of it, and who knows? Maybe Chef Thompson will give you at least a thumbs up, or 5 or 10 bonus points. That's no expectation set there. I can't guarantee that. I don't give extra credit points hardly. So, there you go. Okay, let's make a couple of plates. Okay, I might have enough product to do a couple of each plates. I wanted to accomplish a couple of things. Number one, I'm not going to be, it may be surprising to you how this is not going to be real ultra fancy. Art is in the eye of the beholder, first of all. But I'm using simple plates that just came from the Walmart. Nothing fancy. I'm using simple ingredients, and I'll explain what each dish. I'm going to do 3 different dishes, and maybe we can do a couple of platings of each dish, or play with different things. If you have an idea, speak up, and we can play with that idea. I didn't draw these out ahead of time like I have you guys do for each lab. I don't have any real preconceived notion, except I want to use a couple of tools that anybody can have. And if you go out to the store and you get exactly what I'm going to use in this next hour or so, you will have to swallow about 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, maybe $10. Maybe. If you get 2 of things, like I usually do, because if you get 2 of things, then yeah, this is going to cost you about $10. What I am not doing, because I am a little bit kind of old school. I'm a little bit from the generation of chefs and we don't have to use tweezers for everything. We got to handle everything with tweezers. Now we need to handle everything with tongs or gloved hands. And I know that we're not doing that at home, and I'm not going to do that here. I'm in my home as well, but let's just remember, when we're plating in the commercial kitchen for other people, we never touch with our skin, fingers, hands. We never touch the version of food that people will put in their mouth. If you're assigned to a garde manger and you're making a raw garden salad, then all of your mise is done with gloves on, because the raw tomatoes, you're not going to cook them further. Raw tomatoes are going to be put in people's mouths. You need to do that with gloves on. Does that make sense? If you're working a hot line, you're going to plate with tongs. Now you may want to do that so you don't burn your fingers. But if you don't feel your fingers anymore, then we do slide into bad habits. I just want to point out before I even start that we want to avoid bad habits. Okay, so this first dish let me see. I'm gonna do some shrimp. So we're gonna do a little bit of an Asian flair. How about that? Is that gonna be all right? So I'm gonna move the camera and I'm gonna spotlight it so blows it up. Yuck! Oh, chef, go away. Okay, I will. Okay, we should just see a plate, more or less, kind of a bowl, really. It's kind of nice. I like the little speckles in it. I like this for something that's going to be, you know, rice, curry, but just a simple rice, some shrimp, and let me preheat a pan. And I'm going to saute real quick. Y'all can't see it, so you're just going to have to sit there and stare at this blank, empty pan. But I want to talk about this and this. So we're going to try both of these maybe. I think this is going to be a little too big. This is a plastic ramekin. Buy it at Walmart for about $1.15, $1.25. Okay, cheap, plastic, but it's also a nice vessel to create what is called a timbal of rice or other things. So let me type this in so we all get the right spelling. Looks like a timbali, almost like a tamale. It's pronounced a timbal. It's French for, you know, that packed look, that packed design of something like rice on the plate is called a timbal. In other settings, minted creamed peas are, you know, processed to almost like mashed potatoes, and that's a very 1900s dish and presentation of that. You would fill up something like this, pack it just a little bit, and then invert it on the plate. Now I'm going to use, because I'm doing something Asian-ish, and later on tonight we're going to have pot stickers tonight. So I made a whole bunch of jasmine rice. It's really sticky. Andy, please go ahead.
Yes, Chef, so I had a question. We did mashed potatoes, I think a couple of weeks ago. So assuming those were thick enough, could you do that? Could you make the timbal with the ramekin with mashed potatoes? And if you can, what keeps it from sticking? Would you have to put butter around the edges first to keep it from sticking, or?
So cooking spray, that was, you're just so bright and intelligent. You went right to my next
Sorry.
segue. No, because I'm intentionally, for two reasons. One, I'm using jasmine, well, for three reasons. Jasmine rice, because this particular dish is going to be Asian-ish. So jasmine rice is Thai, and it's aromatic, but it's also kind of sticky. For a long grain rice, it's one of the stickiest of long grain rices. Well, long grain rice. If I fill this with jasmine rice, there will be no way for me to get it out of here. I just have to use my finger or scoop it out, and that really defies why I would be using this in the first place. I lose all the clean edges, and so it's really terrible. But if I give it, now, pay attention when I say it needs to be a light spray. Don't pour vegetable oil in here, or you're going to get a coating on your rice. we're gonna see how this looks here. So one mistake whenever we do this, pack it in a little bit, okay? A mistake that's made in restaurants every day is setting up this all before service even starts, and then thinking I'm going to be just fine. And, you know, an hour and a half after I filled this bowl, I'm going to be able to invert it and get it out, even with a little light spray. Rice will continue to release its starch. That starch is going to glue itself to the inside of this bowl. This is something you need to do in the moment and not set these bowls up well in advance. We want to avoid those mistakes. So yeah, you can see just touching it, it sticks to you. Good. I'm going to choose a point that's off center. Okay. And I'm about to burn up this pan that I'm going to saute these veggies in. So I'm going to be off center with this timbal of rice, and I can lift this off. I have nothing inside, just a little residue from the spray, and I have my rice. Now, the rice looks discolored, and in part it's the spray, but it's also the lighting in here. I don't have professional lights and all such as that. Now, look at how boring this is right now. You know, it's virtually white and then an off-white starch. Whatever I do from here needs to add color, as well as building flavor, building texture, handling, you know, height, and whatever else. So I have, oh, that's just about perfect. Don't you hate it when that happens? All right, give me a second. And I'm going to saute these veggies here real quick. I dropped in a little sesame oil, and there it is. And I've got some blanched French beans. Super hot pan. Little red bell pepper. Little red onion. Little garlic. Pepper. Little salt. Okay, before I go to that, okay, I've got, because this is what I use some of this for the shrimp. You'll see that in a minute. This is essentially some teriyaki glaze. Okay, some sugar, garlic, ginger, soy sauce, rice wine vinegar. You let it cook down enough. Now I'm going to put a little in my spoon, and I'm going to just very coarsely paint the outside. because of the viscosity of this, very rustic. Okay. A thinner sauce, I can use the spoon, do almost the same thing. With a thinner sauce, I would probably do a circle all the way around the plate, and then put the rice down. Oftentimes, the sauce, because we're so influenced by our cultural traditions, we've joked for the last 7 weeks now, we've joked about here in Arkansas, we cover everything with brown gravy or white gravy. And gravy sauce tends to be an afterthought, the last thing that goes on the plate. Sometimes that needs to be the first thing that goes on the plate. Hence, one of the reasons why I ask y'all to kind of do a drawing before you ever put your plate together. Now here we're building a little bit of color as well as some flavor. And so some green beans. With some red bell pepper. Now I may not be using tweezers, but kind of might as well be using tweezers when you're plating this way. I don't know, let's go with that. One thing we want to be careful doing is, especially on a dish like this, we want to avoid slides, and we want to avoid moving things around as much as possible. That's because you're gonna repaint the plate. Now, if this thing will cooperate, little height, and I don't know about this harebrained idea. I'm just going to leave it like this. So, too much food on the plate. San, thank you. So, as we do each week, let's let this week be no different. You are the sous chef. Now, listen, I got thick skin, so we all know that this is my plate. But what would you do different? What do you like? What do you not like? Don't be afraid to say that all food on the plate.
There is a lot of food on the plate.
Is that it?
I probably would have layered the shrimp on top of the rice so that you could see the sauce.
Okay, so let me ask, how would you do that me see if I can tilt this so you can get kind of an idea. How would you do that with the height?
I probably would have like stacked them in like circles on top of one another. Yeah, like turned it like that. Yeah.
You could probably, you might be able to get 3.
Yeah.
You're not quite gonna, they won't stay. Your rice is gonna topple.
Mhm.
Okay. Anybody else? Oh, I know where it is. So let's do one more. Here's one of the takeaways. Okay. So now I'm going to do the same thing with the rice. I'm going to do, I'm going to do, okay, Terrence. Yeah. The symmetrical, how the shrimp followed the curvature of the plate. Okay. Symmetry works for us. But you know, symmetry is also a rule that's easily broken and sometimes should be broken. Now, here's the ramekin used for that timbal versus this this little funnel. Okay, this is about $1.45, I think, from Walmart. Just Walmart. It's collapsible, so the funnel, you know, can sit in your drawer like this. Okay, and it's rubber. Silicone, rubber, boom, that pops out. Well, I'm going to use this shape to do a timbal. And starting, in fact, with this one, I don't want to start with the starch. Okay. I'm going to put the starch off center. Okay. Again. But look at what I'm going to do with the sauce, I think. Actually, so we're going to put some of this glaze just a little, like a dollop. Okay. Then using the back end of the spoon, one motion, starting in the middle of that that teeny dollop. Okay, one motion, swish, and there you have the swish. Now, my sauce has sat here on the stove and it cooked down a little bit, and so I've got some glaze. I've got some sugar globs in here, but the cleanliness of this zhuzh, first of all, it needs to be one motion. Resist this urge, especially when you're doing this for the first time. It's okay. Zhuzh, I don't like that. Well, get a paper towel or something, wipe it off, and zhuzh again. We'll do this with another sauce, this same thing, because this particular sauce design is used every single day, because it's as simple as spoon, stop, zhuzh. It's that quick. Drop, zhuzh. I don't know the formal name for zhuzh, but there you go. Okay. Light little spray in my cone. This rubber cone has a side benefit of, I just realized this, whenever I turn this out, if it's sticking at all, I can squeeze the rubbered sides. And so I'm going to press just a little bit, all the way to the edge of the plate. And I might just give it a little press so I don't have such a pointy top, cone head. But I'm right up against this sauce. And so now, in a way, going back to Terrence's comments about doing something symmetrical, following the curvature of the I'm going to create this little vegetable base. And I'm going to come back to this same shrimp because it's the only shrimp that I've done. I can keep all the rice off of it. Last one. Well, so in my opinion, well, wait, what's your opinion? Little black sesame seed would be really nice. I have some, but it's in a whole other room and I'm not going to run and get that. Clean that up. The jus should follow the curve a little bit better. Does this give anybody, does this give you any, we got two other dishes to plate. Does this give anybody some thoughts or hints or tip or technique? Anything you question or want to know before we move on?
So if you wanted to keep the color that you have with the veggies, could you have put 3 shrimp that sort of go around the arc of the sauce?
Right on the sauce?
Or excuse me, just inside it? Or maybe just outside the right side? Yeah, maybe they're too big. I don't know.
Well, that's the thing. These are 16 to 20 count shrimp. So these are, these are 1 ounce per shrimp. They're pretty good size. But what if we did? Remove these all together. Maybe we could follow the curve of the bowl. A lot of cleanup to do here. I don't know if I like that very much. So we fix it. and just a little more. Now, if anything, I can tell you one thing that certainly Miss Mandy would really like about this, and that is there's so much more vegetable on the plate than there is starch and even protein. Weight-wise, this amount of veg and this amount of protein is about the same. So Terrence mentioned taking the shells off. It is pretty classical to present shrimp in so many different applications, tail on. So this shrimp is peeled and deveined, but the tail remains. So it's just the only shell that's present is this last digit, this last section, and the tail. Last section and the tail. And so should that come off? I don't know. It would certainly be easier to eat. But wipey.
That's what I was thinking. It's easier to eat without the shell, that last tail on it.
Yep. Now here I'm just using a paper towel, which is not the best, certainly when you're dealing with soy.
So when you do, the chef, when you do that swish, it's okay for that to be thick at the beginning and then just kind of narrow at the end when you do it, because you're just doing that one swipe, correct?
Absolutely, yeah, it should work that way. It shouldn't be the same. You're
Okay.
creating two identical symmetrical lines that go.
Okay.
It's something very rustic. It starts with,
Okay.
and then the back of the spoon.
Okay.
And when you make the
Gotcha.
swish, it's gonna taper. It's gonna
Mhm.
while leaving that track right in the middle.
Okay. Thanks.
All right, let's do something different. Okay. Move this out of the way. So now y'all listen, this this chicken has been sitting out here just at room temperature, and this steak has been sitting out here at room temperature. Just came out of the oven, I don't know, probably an hour now. So don't judge the quality of the that. Okay. The asparagus has been sitting for an hour. Okay. So let's do okay, let's do this first. I'm gonna do maybe that's too little. That's too little. Let me show you this. I need to move to. Okay, have you heard the term quenelle? I think you'll understand it whenever you see it here in just a minute. Okay. Let's start with some sauce that just goes right down the middle of the plate. Okay. Let's take some sliced carrots. Let's take some peas. Oh, I need tweezers. Well, all right. This kind of plating is when we kind of do go get the tweezers, and I don't care for that. Right?
Is that hollandaise sauce, Chef?
It is not hollandaise. So have you learned velouté? It is more or less a velouté.
Chef, why didn't you stack the chicken on top of the carrots in the middle?
I don't want to cover the color.
Gotcha.
Okay, so I got a spoonful of stuff. I'm going to try to do this without making a mess everywhere. I have a spoonful of potatoes. Okay, and I'm going to move my spoon kind of against each other until I get, I know this kind of scares you whenever I say a football shape, because that's going to make everybody think of a tornado, right?
No, don't make us do that again.
But I get this kind of nice, clean, put one against the chicken there. And let's do one more.
Now that plate makes sense to me.
Does it?
Yes, with the potatoes added, yeah. It makes sense.
What do you like? What do you not like?
I like the symmetry and the color.
peas and carrots, something that you'll have with just plain roasted chicken. Plain old mashed potatoes and gravy. I mean, this is just kind of this is Southern slop right here. All right, let's do something different. Let's do one more with let's start with some sauce again, but I'm gonna do my sauce is going to be kind of some glue. Okay. My glue is going to hold down some of these taters like this. Then they don't go all over the place. Okay. I'm going back to that same other plate. And let's put oh, no, let's do this. I don't know. Let's say
I don't know, I think it almost need some other kind of color. Okay, now that makes it pop with that, yeah.
maybe just one potato, actually. That's a lot of starch on this plate.
Yeah, it looks like it's kind of overcrowded. It looks like the potatoes is overcrowding everything else.
Stuff's been sitting out too long. Well, okay.
Yeah, that's better.
All right, let's do one other. Now, pretty much all I've done here so far is symmetrical, is kind of really family dining restaurant kind of stuff, maybe kicked up just a little bit. Let's do something that is going to be very unusual, not symmetrical, and not what you expect. And so carrot pureed, just carrots, a little cream, salt and pepper, potatoes in a $1 squeeze bottle, 95 cents for these squeeze bottles. A little demi. Have y'all learned that sauce yet? Demi-glace is essentially Espanol, and then the Espanol is further reduced with more beef stock. Peas, but the peas pureed almost to the same texture as the demi. And so just with this, I mean, the thought of it might be, I've got a sauce and 3 different baby foods. Kind of, sort of. Okay.
I was just thinking that they look like baby food.
One thing to keep in mind, if you're going to use, you're going to create dots, and you're going to squeeze out of a squeeze bottle. Okay. If you move off to the side, if you're to the side of the squeeze bottle, then your squeeze is to the side, and you're going to end up with I don't know, doggy do. Can I say that in class? Sorry, I just did. So now I feel like that's exactly what I'm picking up. That's gross. So here, I want to visualize, I'm going to have just the eye of the ribeye. And I just, it was just broiled in the oven, and it cooked too long. And it was only about, I don't know, that's not even a ½ inch thick. And so it was kind of it was a reject, but I took this one so just we could accomplish this. I want to see in my mind, I'm going to have all kinds of different dots, but I want the plate. I'm going to plate in 1/2 of the plate. I'm going to leave an entire half completely blank, negative space. But I don't want to just fill all of this area. I'm going to think this way. I'm going to do it on the diagonal. And I want a place for the steak to go. Now I'm only using the eye, and it's trimmed even that a little further, because just because I have this big, in fact, the piece of ribeye was given, even though it's so thin, it would have largely almost filled up this plate. And so compare that to what I'm going to use here for a minute. I do want a little squeeze, and potatoes are really nice. I want to give a little squeeze of a place that is going to give me some height. And so I don't care what that squeeze looks like. That's where my steak is going to go. Okay. If you've, and most of us haven't, if you ever get into cake decorating, that's basically what we're going to do right now. We're going to put some some dots like a cake decorator. And a cake decorator is going to create a base where the roses are going to go and where the leaves are going to go out of those roses or flowers or whatever. This is the base that the steak is going to sit on. Okay. And so one of the things that we want, which makes this much more visually appealing, is the opposite of symmetry. I don't want an even number of dots. I don't want even on both sides of the steak. I want very random. I'm going to hold my squeeze bottle straight up and down. My carrot puree is just about the same texture as the potatoes. Oop, see, sometimes that happens. A little bit on the thin side, maybe. All right, that's what I thought. My pea puree is really thin. I hate those air bubbles that pop out. I'm going to cover the top. Get that kind of reincorporated so I don't have
So how do you keep the purees warm?
so in the commercial kitchen we would call it a bain marie.
Okay, so you just set it in like a water bath or?
Yes.
one of
Yeah.
those? Yeah.
That's the beauty of these water bottles. As long as that water bath doesn't exceed poaching liquid, the poaching temperature.
Okay.
The only warning is whatever temperature this is sitting in, that's the temperature it's going to be when you grab it to squeeze. And so you have to remember the contents are going to be, 170, 180 degrees.
Okay.
And if you're not mindful, that's enough to give you a burn.
Okay.
And here comes a lovely ribeye jerky. Some of the stuff's running just a little bit, but I don't know. Can you tell from the angle?
Yeah, but I get the idea of it though.
Now,
It actually looks like one of those plates I had on the resort.
maybe a little sprinkle of pepper, maybe a little sprinkle. I kind of give you an idea. Maybe I'll do this with some black pepper, but some very, very finely minced fresh herbs. I don't know if you can even see that. In the camera.
Yes, chef, we can see it.
Okay, I don't know. What else would you like to know about? Let me point out a couple of things. I don't know if you'll be able to see this close. So really, really paying attention to your purees. If you're going to do these dots, paying attention to the consistency of those purees. Okay, so potato's nice and easy because of the starch that's in it. Okay, carrot, you have to be very, very careful of two things. This would be the same for most squash, sweet potato. They're very fibrous. And so notice how, I want to try to make that same swish, but you can see the little fibers. See what I'm talking about? That's just carrot that didn't completely get blended yet. And so this takes a lot of time. I could have used maybe another, 10 minutes of just working on this carrot.
You cook the carrot first, right?
Yes. Oh yeah, you can't do this from raw.
Yeah, I didn't.
It's too fibrous. So if I have a little squirt of it, and I'm going to take I'll use one of these potato spoons. But I use the back of the spoon to do the same swish. See how that works? Dot, 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 dot. Remember food one, and near the beginning of the semester, we learned how to paste, and we just minced and paste over and over, and I would usually say, when you think you have your paste for insurance, you need to do it a few more times. We want to break down all of those individual little pieces so that we get a smooth product. And so it's just a little more time in a blender. Some things you can cut with potato, especially if it's white. We can do this with cauliflower. We can do this with parsnip, but we end up with this if we mix the parsnip, if we mix the cauliflower, for example, with the starch from the potato. My pea, so I'm totally just jacking up this plate right here, which is okay. So sometimes one of the things we want to do is almost like two sauces, and do it kind of like a yin and a yang. I wouldn't do it with a demi with a brown sauce and pea, but you get the idea, I hope. Now, I mean, the sky's the limit. Even going from here, what different kinds of sauces, as you learn different sauces in stocks, as we do different foods, as you reduce liquids. Can you see we didn't even do much? Well, had some rondelle of carrot, but can you see the importance of clean cuts And your medium dice needs to be all the same medium dice that goes on the plate. I should have done that. But does this give us a pretty good start anyway? At least more than, hey, y'all just go look at some pictures and try to figure it out.
I think it's been very helpful.
What could be more helpful? I'm sorry, San, what'd you say?
I would just agree with you. Yes, Chef.
Okay. What would you like to see some more of this? I don't know what else really to do from I don't know. Maybe I can poach some fish too next week. I know that's hard. We start class at 5:30, and usually I get home between 4 and 4:30. All right, Terrence would like to see more of this. Let me see.
Yeah,
Andy, you agree?
I do agree. It helps for me to watch it and see.
Okay. Okay. Duly noted. We'll do some more. Different. And I don't know when. So there's a commercial to just continue to tune in every Monday evening until the end of the semester. How about that? As you're preparing each week, as you're preparing for your lab assignments, if there's a particular thing that comes to mind, shoot me a text or an email. Hey, Chef, I'd really like to see blah, blah, blah. Show me a picture that you see that you'd like to copy or something. And how do I do this or that? And maybe that would help as well. I don't know. You might have a question about anything else?
So maybe this is a follow-up on Kathy's question, but creating all that takes some time. I mean, pureeing all that and then keeping it at a temperature that you can serve it safely. I can imagine, I mean, I'm sitting, I don't know about everybody else, but start to finish, not counting dishwashing, is never less than 3 hours. I don't think to create one of these, trying to do, let's say, 3 different purees, is that just what it is? There's simply no way around the amount of time it takes, I guess.
There's no way around. And so the challenge for you, the challenge for this class is all of that mise for one plate. And I get that. That's a challenge, but from the time element in our class, the lab portion, especially for this class, you've got some key terms and you got a quiz. And I even took away, I think it was originally this week and next week, had a little kitchen math, and I erased those. I deleted those because that's actually something that started from the summer, and that was kitchen math that was taken out of context. And so I didn't delete those before. I've deleted them now. So you don't even have any kitchen math this semester. You've got a key terms, you've got a quiz, which is all of about 30 minutes, 45 minutes, maybe for each week, if you're doing this 1 week at a time. This is a 6-hour class. So I don't feel bad that it's going to require at least 3 or 4 hours for you to mise, cook. Now, you write your little taste essay, you draw your picture, there we come up with our 6 hours of class time. But if we put this into real world application, Andy, I don't think you were exactly asking about, the lab time. Is there any shortcuts or any way around the 3 hours of
No, I was more like,
if
I guess you could prepare those purees in advance and then hold them in a water
pain
bath.
Yes. So in just about any kind of restaurant, the exception would be fast food, quick service. But there's prep even in quick service. The people that work at Subway still have to chop and slice and dice. They use machines and they kind of cut as they go. But from Chili's to Cooper's to Cajun's Wharf and Jacques and Suzanne's, and there's some names that aren't even around anymore. From full service casual dining to gourmet fine dining. If you have dinner service that starts about 5:30, your PM shift is going to start anywhere from noon to 1. I would really be scared of starting any dinner service any later than 1 p.m. And it is a mad dash because you're starting from raw product. And now I had to leave work early today. So, and I still, I walk through the door maybe about 3 o'clock, between 3 and 3:30. And I put my stuff down and boom, hit the kitchen. Boom, 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 boom. Yes, San, great observation. That's true in catering. That's true in anything that we do. And in a way, we become very sick and twisted people. We become sick and twisted people because, if you're a baker and your specialty is wedding cakes, holy cow, you will spend 2 days on a wedding cake that gets consumed in 20 minutes. For all of us, think of those, not that we're always trying to impress, but those really nice dinner parties. And what you're learning now and what you apply to your food at home now, a nice dinner with friends is going to be half of the day. And you're sweating and you're slaving, and dinner is gone in an hour and a half if, it's slow and there's conversation and all of that. But it took you 5 or 6 hours for something that, you consumed in 30, 45 minutes. Why do we do this? We do this because we get so much professional and personal satisfaction in the smiles on other people's face. The notion that is so prevalent today that we can do what other people can't do. And that's not true. We're just willing to do what other people won't do. And if we're smart, we're going to charge a fair amount of money for it. That's the capitalist pig speaking. We all do, San. We love it when somebody loves our food. And so from little dots to which is simple, to the swish of a little puddle of sauce. It's simple. We shouldn't make our food complicated. We shouldn't make preparing the food complicated. We shouldn't make what goes on the plate complicated, but we present it in such a way that everything, we want it to pop, and we want colors, and A lot of times we're going to plate and then we're going to plate again and then we're going to plate again before we settle on this plating of this dish. I've done this long enough where, we come up with a dish and it may be, another 2 or 3 weeks before we're ready to put that dish on a menu. We don't want to just throw things together. Anyway, I could drone on and on. It's 7 p.m. What else would you like to know?
Chef, did you see my text?
I think so. Wait, when did you send it?
This afternoon, I work ahead and I accidentally submitted.
Oh, I saw that. I saw that. I haven't had a chance to do it yet.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
I'll clear it. I'll take that out.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Anything comes up, send me a text or an email. Have a good night. Enjoy halibut. I'm actually kind of glad for halibut versus the salmon, but that's just my own preference talking.
I like halibut too.
Good. Yes.
Thanks, Chef.
Thank you, Chef.
Nighty night. Everybody have a good night.